So welcome to Celebrate Open USG. This is both a celebration and a call for people to join our efforts. We have a stellar lineup today of innovative people within the university system of Georgia. None of them are me, so I'm going to try to get through this as quickly as possible. So we have people that are administrators, we have professors, we have librarians, we have open educational resource authors and publishers, and people who are starting really big projects. So I would love for them to share their stories, and I want to just go right to it. Once the presenters are done, that's when we're going to have a Q&A. Please save most of your questions until the end of the webinar, unless they're technical ones, then just send it to the host. If you have any questions that were not answered today, please email me. That's jeff.gallant@usg.edu. And of course, if you want any more information on Affordable Learning Georgia, which I won't be able to get into too much today, go right to affordablelearninggeorgia.org. So I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Houston Davis, the Executive Vice Chancellor and Chief Academic Officer for the Board of Regents of the USG.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Well, thank you all for joining us today. I just wanted to take just a couple of minutes. I promise you I'll be brief, just to thank everyone that's involved with this update. I actually just left a meeting with the Chancellor just a couple of minutes ago and was giving him a little bit of a briefing on where we are with Affordable Learning Georgia. He's so excited, and Mergel's just now learning this. He's wanting to make certain that we get this as a centerpiece on one of the upcoming board agendas. So, Mergel, make a note. We got a little more work to do. But one of the things that we'll want to do is make certain to include several of our great examples, and I know many of those are going to be discussed today. I just, again, want to thank all of you that are involved with this particular effort. Those of you that know me know that we're really concerned about affordability of post-secondary education, not only in Georgia, but this is a national and really international conversation. And what we're doing to think about how we can bridge high quality, open educational resources, learning objects, modules into the classroom and into our learning environments, whether that be to replace or supplement existing textbooks and learning objects. What you're doing now is one of our critical pieces to thinking about how we can bridge to a more affordable, yet still high quality opportunity for our students. Just really appreciate it. Look forward to learning a little bit more about how the updates on various projects are going, and I thank you so much for all that you do for the University System of Georgia. I'll turn it back over to my colleagues.
Thank you so much, Dr. Davis. So our first faculty panelist is going to be Dr. Peggy Brickman. She is one of the pioneers of OER projects in the university system, and she has a great story to tell. I'm going to send you presenter privileges in just a second. And there we go. Thank you so much, Dr. Brickman.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm going to try to be really quick, and you guys can save any questions you have until the end. I want to tell you just briefly a little bit about the course that I have been using the open resources for, and that is the Biology 1103, which is a course that's designed for students who are fulfilling their general education requirement. The requirements for this course, we wanted to have students do a little bit more than just the traditional studying, taking tests. We really wanted them to start to use biology in their own lives through evaluating sources of information, communicating their understanding about their scientific claims in writing. But you'll notice from the top of this slide that the class has an enrollment of 300 plus students. So we have about 1,000 students taking this course each semester. And so we wanted to be able to get students to do some writing. I have a picture here that shows one of the writing assignments that we've had them finish. It's about endocrine disruptors in the water supply, and it's a chance for students to investigate, find some sources, and then write up a response and get that graded. So we had some challenges to the course. Probably primarily we had an expensive textbook that we were using. Students weren't purchasing the course, the textbook for the course. They therefore weren't reading the textbook before they came to class. And the kind of activities that we wanted to do in class required that they had actually read a little bit ahead of time. So we decided to try to at least alleviate the reading problems that students were having by choosing an open source textbook. We used one from OpenStax College. It's their Concepts in Biology. This was supported by a grant from William and Flora Hewlett and Bill and Melinda Gates. And all of these textbooks are available on the website that you see here. This is linked through our Learning Commons course management system. Students can either download a PDF of the book, or kind of more importantly, we can link to individual sections of the book that students can use. So some of the challenges that we had using the book were getting the whole thing organized, because we weren't using a traditional textbook where we sort of marched through the chapters 1 and then 2 and then 3. And we wanted to be able to not only engage students with the reading from this textbook, but also add additional readings as well. So this is sort of an overview at the bottom of what we did. Each course unit, we chose an engaging problem that the students were going to work on. For example, gene expression was the unit that we were using to talk about these chemicals in the water. We arranged the content in checklists, and then within those checklists we had individual assignments with links to them. So you can see in this picture we've got a little bit of a reading assignment as well as a calendar with entries that they have. The general outline for each topic was to have readings and quizzes online, and then lecture and classroom activities. And then assignments were online as well. We had a lot of help. Denise Domizi is going to talk next, and she works at our Center for Teaching and Learning, so I'll leave her to sort of talk about how she helped coordinate this with myself as well as other faculty members. But our director for our Center for Teaching and Learning was really instrumental in getting this process happening, and arranged to have a graduate TA who helped with sort of planning and organizing how to use the materials. And then I want to thank my co-instructors who were also extremely helpful as well. And I will sign it off to Denise.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brickman. We are going to pass this to Denise Domizi, Dr. Denise Domizi. She has been involved in Affordable Learning Georgia for a very long time, and we're very happy to have her also speak.
Hi. Okay, so get my little earpiece on here.
Yep, we can see and hear you.
Okay, excellent. So I'm Denise Domizi. I'm at the Center for Teaching and Learning at UGA, and I wanted to give props to my team here. When I think about the support that we're giving, it is not any one individual here at CTL or even just the CTL. There's a nice effort across campus. So the folks who are listed in that gray box there, they'll come up when we talk about different consultations that we've done. But just to briefly give you an idea of the big projects that we're going to focus on, these are 3 different classes, and the support that we gave these were thanks to the Affordable Learning Georgia grants. There's one for each year. So our first one was with Peggy, and she just talked to you about that one. This year we are working with Montgomery Wolf, who is teaching history. And then for the coming year, 2015-2016, we're working with Janet Frick and Casey Welch in psychology. So they're doing this for their Psych 101 class. And you can see the numbers there of what per year the student savings are for each of those classes. So we're pretty proud about that. The support that we are giving, probably the main way we're supporting is through consultations, and some of these are one-on-one, and some of these are within bigger groups. So often the first thing we do is folks will come to us and need help locating OERs, and our first go-to is usually OpenStax, or it is OpenStax, because we know those folks and they've been really supportive so far, and we like their products. But because the OpenStack's focus is on impact, the books that they have are for classes with large enrollment, or typically very common classes. So sometimes they don't have a book that we need, so then we help the faculty members try and locate a more suitable textbook. Probably the biggest thing that we've helped with so far is with instructional design and course redesign. And so we encourage faculty members to take this as an opportunity, not just to swap out textbooks and page numbers, but to really rethink, or at least think about the design of their course, and think of this as an opportunity to make it better. So we start with learning goals, learning objectives, and work from there. You know, we've been trying to focus on a student-centered pedagogy, which is something that Peggy's been doing for years. That's something that we were really focusing on with the history class, for example, this semester, or this year. So Montgomery Wolf, the professor for that class, has flipped that class. And really, you know, the textbook is just one part of that. Other things that we focus on is, you know, helping them integrate the new text material into the learning management system. So that's part of our team. Sherry Clouser and Carrie Bishop really help the faculty members think about how best to integrate the textbook into the LMS, as well as just any other resources, open resources that they're using. We've been able to provide graduate students to those first two classes thanks to the grant, and they've been really working one-on-one with the faculty members. And then the one for next year, psychology, they are part of a fellows program. So the focus of the fellows program is on flipping, but they're also flipping with the Open Ed textbook. So that's going to be, so they're getting their support through that cohort and through that community. And then I thought I would just mention the focus of our Learning Technologies grants this past year, well, 2014-15, we requested, or we gave special consideration to those that had an OER focus. And Ilsa Mason is one who, she got one of our grants to write an online textbook for her course. So that is something that she has done. We have librarians that are really helpful. Nadine Cohen is our Affordable Learning Georgia librarian, and Marianne Burwright has a special focus on open resources, open repositories. So they have been a great resource for us. If we don't know the best place for a textbook, they've been really helpful in that respect, and then also in curating different resources through LibGuides. And then finally, I think one of the biggest things we can do is just raise awareness of OERs. There's so many people who don't realize that what it is, that it's an option, that it's legitimate, that there are no strings attached. And so we've been trying to really spread the word both locally on campus, around Georgia, and nationally too, going to conferences and talking about our projects, just to let folks know that this is a wonderful option for them. So, you know, there have been some articles written about us, and through the power of social media, they've been tweeted and retweeted, and we've gotten phone calls from folks all over the place. And I know Peggy's mentioned that she gets phone calls from professors saying, is this legit? What are the strings? So just helping to spread the word like Affordable Learning Georgia is doing, I think, is another great way that we can help support OERs. So I will pass this on to the next person.
Thank you so much. We are going to pass it to Ashley Paulk, who is part of eCore, and she's going to be talking about the eCore implementations in OER. And changing the presenter to you.
Thank you, Jeff. And hello, everyone. This is Ashley Paulk with eCore. I apologize that I'm not prepared with a webcam today, but I hope that you find the information I share helpful to your OER goals. So currently we have Open Ed resources implemented in 16 of our 26 courses, and that number is steadily growing. Each semester we try to grow that number by at least 3 if we can't grow more. But we do have an overall goal of to be 100% open by 2017, and that does exclude the cost of lab kits at this time. But to help us reach that goal, we've established a partnership with Affordable Learning Georgia to further develop open textbooks. So right now we use a lot of the OpenStax texts, and those are great because we focus primarily on the core curriculum. So we're able to really find a lot of what we need from OpenStax. But we are also working with University Press of North Georgia on the development of some open texts that aren't readily available. So we've kind of evaluated the market and identified areas of need, and we're really trying to develop texts in those areas. So you'll see some of the text down below that we currently use or are in the process of implementing. One of those in particular, the U.S. history text, was our first OER that we implemented, and that was a project with University Press of North Georgia and several eCore faculty. So you'll actually hear from one of those authors later today, Dr. Sarah Mergel, and then B.J. Robinson with the University Press also worked on that project, and she has been an absolute pleasure to work with on the development of our new text. So currently for those areas where we weren't really able to identify primary text to utilize, we've adapted and adopted multiple Open Ed resources to ensure that our content is supported. So once we identify and adopt the OERs that we'd like to use, most of the assigned portions are embedded within the course content. So you'll see we've got a screenshot over there to the right. Most of these readings are embedded as PDFs. However, you might see these embedded in other ways as HTML pages throughout other courses. We always make our full text versions available to our students so that they have the ability to download those to their desktops or their Kindles, and they can access the readings that way. And we also are sure to advertise the low-cost print options that are available for students that might still prefer to have that traditional textbook. So as you all know, we're able to identify, adapt and modify content as needed, but to be honest, we haven't really had to modify many of the open texts that we've adopted. With our calculus course, the lead instructional designer for that course did work with the author to really modify that text, but that's probably the main one that we really had to adapt and modify to suit our needs. Another plus to using the OpenStax textbooks are the ancillary resources that are provided. Most of those texts come with a test bank, PowerPoint slides, and other resources that are available to both students and faculty. So that's another reason why we really like using OpenStax when it comes to adopting Open Ed resources. Okay, so now on to the celebration piece of the presentation. So recently our marketing director posted a survey to our eCourse students on Facebook, and the incentive in completing the survey was to get a free t-shirt. So thinking she would have maybe 20 or so responses, she posted the survey and ended up with about 300 t-shirts to mail out. But we really gathered some great feedback from our students and were really overwhelmed by the number of comments regarding free textbooks. So I've posted a few of those comments on the screen here, but this is, the kind of the affirmation that we were looking for. It's often challenging to implement OER, and to know that our students are grateful and appreciative of those free text options, really makes this project and initiative worthwhile. And so kind of what's over the horizon, our marketing our enrollment manager is a retired captain in the U.S. Navy, so he always mentions over the horizon when we talk about different challenges or things that we always need to keep our eyes on. So while we've made some headway with open text implementation, we always are trying to keep our eyes on different open source math practice for our students. In addition to Spanish and foreign language practice. So while we've kind of got the open text thing covered for these courses, we really want to be able to provide other resources where students can practice the concepts they learn in their math classes and also master the concepts they're learning in their Spanish and foreign language courses. And then lastly, as always, our lab sciences. We are going to be implementing an open text in our chemistry courses in the fall, but we are always looking to make those courses more affordable. So with any of these points here, we certainly welcome your suggestions and feedback when it comes to these items. So thank you all for your time, and I think I'm passing it on to Deborah.
Thank you, Ashley. It was great to hear about that student feedback, too. That was news to me. It got me very excited. The next three speakers are all involved in the production of the U.S. History 1 textbook, because two of them are from the University of North Georgia, and they were both involved in this project. So I'm going to pass it to Deborah Prosser next.
Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear and see you.
Great. I'm actually not going to talk about the U.S. History textbook. I had another project I wanted to mention, if I could. I know BJ will be presenting after me.
Oh, yeah.
She is definitely the authority on that. I will start out by saying that I feel tremendously lucky to have the partnership with BJ and the University Press of North Georgia. I think it's amazingly fruitful, and there are more things on the horizon. For me, as a librarian and library administrator, I, began asking myself the questions, what can we do as librarians, because library skills and expertise are so important to open access resources, whether it's copyright research and affirmations, or really new paradigms in library services that include open access resources. And I started thinking about, what do we do and how can we contribute? And one of the things for us at the University of North Georgia is we have had credit-bearing library instruction courses for over a decade, and we require a textbook. And I had an epiphany last spring, actually, when I was at Guggum, and I thought, wait a minute, we could do an open textbook on information literacy and research skills and stop charging our students those fees and contribute to the open access efforts. I had a very productive conversation with Merrill Penson about it, and talked about opening it up to the university system, and we have done that. So the library faculty at the University of North Georgia are have begun work on an open textbook in support of library research and information literacy. And I'll give you a little bit of the background on this. And Amanda Nash, who is our head librarian at our Gainesville campus, is the editor-in-chief for the project. And we've also assembled a team of librarians from around the system to work on it. So it's very much a broad-based project with lots of expertise. And we started thinking about it, about what's needed. And at the UNG, we are most interested in reaching our students early on in their college careers, because we're teaching these soft skills and other skills that really benefit them not only in their college careers, but in their lives. The ability to find and evaluate research and apply it and use it. And we started looking at project information literacy. Some of you are familiar with that. It comes out of the University of Washington. And it's a project focusing and compiling data on how people interact with research. And what their research shows is that people have overwhelming difficulties. Our students, our earliest students, have overwhelming difficulties with getting started on research. This is what they report. and that they're uncertain about the quality of their research and whether it's applicable. And so we're working on an open textbook on research skills that I hope will fill some of these gaps. We're hoping that it'll be broad-based. There are a couple of open texts, a small number, about 2 or 3 out there that deal with research skills. Some of them are too advanced in their approach for our needs. In other words, they're aimed at upper level or graduate students. Some of them are narrow in their focus and say, for example, just focus on internet research. So we're looking at a book, working on a book that has broad appeal, that will apply not only in our own credit-bearing research courses, but for courses that teach these kinds of skills at other institutions, both within the USG and broader. So that, to me, is kind of our most exciting project. And I will say also, kind of coming around full circle to the beginning, and also to kind of turn things over to BJ, is that BJ Robinson and I have worked together on the World Literature 1 textbook, for which we received an innovation grant. And BJ and her team and the faculty who have worked on this have done an amazing job. And the library portion was our copyright specialist provided support in researching open resources that they could use for inclusion in this text. And that's a kind of partnership that we've had a lot of success with, and that I've been really feel fortunate to have been able to have assisted with. So it's indicative of the kinds of things that can happen when you work collaboratively. And as many of you know, BJ and I are the champion and coordinator for ALG for the UNG, and it's been a great opportunity.
Thank you so much. It's very important to know that if you're about to think about starting an OER project, that librarians are there to help with finding things, with understanding copyright and understanding open licenses. I mean, we've been in that field for a very long time. And also, we heard earlier, consult with instructional designers and centers for teaching and learning. They're very helpful. I'm going to now pass this over to BJ Robinson of the University Press of North Georgia.
Hello, everybody. This is BJ Robinson. Oops, sorry. I don't have a webcam. Please forgive me for that, but you probably will be happier that I don't. For a few years now, the University Press of North Georgia, now the University of North Georgia Press, has been developing low to no cost textbooks, or OER, and we are directing a greater portion of our activities to producing totally no cost textbooks. Okay, let me try to get this. I have one. Can everyone hear me, by the way? Is there, I'm assuming, sorry.
Yes, we can hear you.
Important. Great, thank you. Our most important initiative so far has been collaborating with the University System of Georgia to hone a production model for developing OER. This model combines the publishing process for scholarly monographs, which is usually what university presses do, and the particular process that we are very happy to combine with textbooks is double-blind peer review. With that, for regular textbook production, and that includes, let's see if I can do this, resource review, needs review, resource review, market review, and that includes existing open access resources, and management milestones. In this way, our model affects high quality OER that also supports professional development for textbook contributors. Because most people in the university system may get service credit, but the scholarly professional development credit is dependent upon peer review. So we're very happy to assist with that. I keep calling the wrong button. How about this? The first product of this collaboration was the U.S. History 1, History in the Making, an electronic and print-on-demand open access textbook written by 4 instructors based at different USG institutions. And I think wonderful Sarah Mergel will be speaking about her experience with that. U.S. History 1 underwent developmental, line, and copy editing, instructional design review by Marie Lassiter, double-blind, pre-publication peer review by subject-specific specialists per chapter and for the book as a whole. It also went through copyright clearance, which Deborah talks about as being so crucial. Marie certainly helped with that. Image delivery, it's not just text, it's also image that does need clearance, production, design, ADA compliance, review, and launch. It is a thoroughly vetted and very high quality OER, I'm very proud to say, and I'm grateful to everyone who helped us be part of that. Here's the model that we developed with working on U.S. History 1. It covers the whole process from initial proposal to the faculty board to developing the actual contributor team. And we can apply our model now to working with contributor teams of up to 8 authors, the large number of which might sound like chaos, but actually allows reasonable distribution of tasks and focus on the respective authors' areas of specialization. And authors in this way can undertake producing original content along with fulfilling pretty demanding teaching and service expectations in order to produce high quality OER within a year or a year and a half. And this is a composition textbook that 8 authors at the University of North Georgia have been working on and we are working with. And I would like to say that our press can provide our style, design, and production templates that we've developed with this collaboration model to anyone who might like to use them in developing their own OER and or with adapting available OER. Let's see what happens now with this next term. We are now working with Affordable Learning Georgia on making our low-cost textbooks like the Basics of American Government, textbooks that currently accrue royalties that authors use for departmental professional development activities or purchases related to their work. We are working to make these textbooks completely open, if possible. This is another way that ALG is contributing to the creation and sustainability of OER. We are also expanding the open ancillaries for these textbooks. And as Ashley Paulk very kindly mentioned, and she's a big part of what we're doing with eCore, ALG is supporting our developing 10 open textbooks with and for eCore. These core area textbooks include American Literature 2, Geology, World History 1, World Lit 1, Art Appreciation, Music Appreciation, English Composition, Human Communication, and Spanish. We'll be applying our collaborative model to accelerate their production by 2016, and we'll work very hard to make it as high quality as possible. Thank you, and I would like, happy to turn the discussion now over to Sarah Mergel, who is a brilliant scholar.
Thank you very much. Yes, we now have Sarah Mergel on board, and she was one of the authors of the U.S. History 1 textbook. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Hopefully. Okay, good. Again, my name is Sarah Mergel, and I'm an Associate Professor of History at Dalton State. And I've actually been asked today to share some information about my experience serving as a co-author of an open textbook. Just to get started, I want to share with everyone that when I agreed to work on the U.S. History 1 textbook with eCore, I had no idea what an open education resource was. And I really had no idea what I was getting into. But that said, I really enjoyed the project, and I don't regret getting into it at all. And so I thought I would spend a few minutes today talking with everyone or sharing with everyone my experience as an author from the sort of the negative and the positive side. Because if you're a faculty member or staff member considering authoring some kind of open education resource, it kind of helps to know what exactly you're getting into. So while my experience was specific to the U.S. History 1 textbook, I think that these positive and negative comments are applicable to anyone considering working on an OER, so a shorter article, lab manuals, and those kinds of things. So the negative list is shorter than the positive list, and frankly, I had to kind of struggle to come up with negatives because this really was such a great experience for me. But the first negative I think I want to point out is that if you are going to be working on an open education resource and you're really writing from scratch, it takes a lot of time to work on such a project. Even when you're working on a project with other authors, with an excellent editorial team, if you're like me and you have a fairly heavy class load each semester, finding the time to work on the book might be a little more difficult than you think when you get started with the project. And I guess the second negative is that traditionally when we think about authoring textbooks, there's some kind of royalty associated or potential royalty or financial value for creating the resource that you are producing. But of course, with open education resources, they're mostly licensed to be non-royalty producing because they're free and low cost to students. Faculty authors don't really get royalties upon completion. That said, with the current Affordable Learning Georgia grant money that's being made available to faculty and staff to make the switch to OER, it sort of lessens some of that burden, at least as far as the production side of it. So those are really the only negatives that I could come up with. But as far as positives, there are definitely a lot more positives associated with writing an open textbook, at least from my personal experience. One of the great things about open textbooks is as an author, and really even if you're adopting an open textbook that you didn't necessarily work on the content, you actually have more control over the content in the book. And you have the ability then to, if you're adopting a book or authoring a book, to add to the body of quality literature that's freely available in your field. As a history instructor, one of my biggest challenges has always been to find a textbook that looks like the way I present material or in the order that I present material. And I think before, with my U.S. History 1 class, I went to using History in the Making. I probably tried 3 or 4 or 5 different textbooks in my time at Dalton State. And so in helping to develop an OER, I was able to really sort of help craft the table of contents even in an order that really made sense to me. And it makes it easier when I'm assigning the readings from the book because it goes in the order that I would normally go in to present the material to students. The second thing that, when it comes to content and developing content, you don't always have to start from scratch. If you have an open resource that you like, you can build on that body of material, and you might also be able to find some good starting points in some of the open text repositories that have already been mentioned that you can then build on to really author a textbook that is suitable for the course that you are teaching or suitable to the students that you are teaching. And you can always ask your colleagues within your discipline or your department if they're using any resources that they'd be willing to share with you as part of this project. And the next point I want to make is that I think that working on an open textbook can really be a learning experience. when I was working on History in the Making, the authors, the editors, and the instructional designers really collaborated from the very beginning of the project. And as BJ mentioned, they developed this process as part of writing this textbook. And for me, it was a great honor to work with such a great group of people because I learned so much. I never really thought, and I hate to say this or hate to admit this, and maybe I shouldn't really admit this, but I really never thought a lot about sort of laying out a textbook and the pedagogical concerns that go along with that. And I didn't have a whole lot of experience with editing. But now, having worked on this project, I'm thinking more about pedagogical things, and I think more about editing, even when I'm working on my own works. And the second benefit as far as a learning experience goes is I was able to, as I was working on sections for the book, expand what I already knew about early American history. And so I learned something from writing the book, and I feel like that's made me a better professor. And I guess the last thing, well, the second to last thing, I guess, there is an opportunity through an open textbook to provide more information to students on a subject than would be traditionally found in a textbook. I mean, when I say that, I mean, history is very much a text-heavy discipline. It's kind of the nature of the subject. But for cost issues, a lot of faculty members go with brief or concise editions. And what I liked about History in the Making is it's really, if you look at the printed version of this textbook, it's something like 800 pages. And that's sort of like a full textbook. In fact, that's like a full textbook for all of American history. So we have a full textbook for just half of it. And it's so we're able to give students so much more information at a much lower cost, so they get more exposure to the content. And as far as the last positive, I can't really speak for administrators, but I think that within the system, given the emphasis that's going on with affordable learning solutions, that faculty and staff who work on these projects will find that it might help with tenure and promotion decisions. And as a sort of final note, thank you all for listening to my musings on authoring an open textbook, and I'm more than happy to speak with any faculty or staff in more detail about my experience. Feel free to contact me or ask questions at the end, or send me an email or give me a call.
Thank you so much. I am going to pass this over to Dr. Vargas, who has been working on a very large-scale OER project, and I can't wait for him to share it. It's going to be awesome. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Herman Vargas. I'm the chair of the Math Department at CCGA, and I'm very excited to be here with you to do this celebration. The nice thing about all this is that we are in the midst of a transformation that we all know that there's no going back. It's just going to be moving forward, and then just getting the word around. For me, it was I wasn't aware of these open educational resources, and it was very easy for me once I was shown to these resources to see the value and just try to be an advocate for all the students. So I have, I'm not only at this point, I'm also the chair of the Academic Advisory Committee on mathematical subjects, so that's also giving me an opportunity to then bring this conversation at the system level. So I'm very excited about that. I'm going to tell you first a few things about what we're doing at CCGA. The idea of the transformation that we're doing at scale is to adopt, we're using OpenStax textbooks for 4 of the top 50 enrolled USG lower division core curriculum courses. These are college algebra, trigonometry, pre-calculus, and probability and statistics. For these courses, these are essentially, most of our students will take these courses in Area A and Area D, and this is going to generate potential savings of almost $350,000 per year. And this is for an institution of our size. It's not a large institution, but there's such a large enrollment in these courses that just anything that we can do is going to have a huge impact. This broad focus of this initiative, we are not only making it more affordable for the students that we're serving, But CCGA and as many other institutions in the USG serve a region that has a large percentage of low-income students. So not only we're making it more affordable for the students that we serve, but it's also bridging that gap that may maintain some students from actually considering coming to college. So imagine, I mean, the huge impact that all the Complete College America efforts, we're not claiming that this is the silver bullet, but at least we're making it more affordable. So we're just targeting one little piece. I know that some of the textbook companies are trying to dismiss some of these projects, saying that, well, that we need to target learning outcomes and not just making things for free. The truth is, we're not claiming that we're making better courses. We're only targeting, making it more affordable to all the students. Beyond math, at least in my institution, I have taken it into my role to just simply visit with all the other disciplines. I mean, I'm going door to door. I'm visiting with the economics faculty, biology faculty. I have visited with the people that are in charge of the A&P textbook. For example, our A&P, the textbook that we currently use, is $400. And if we were to move to the OpenStax textbook, it will be free or even $50 if the student wanted to get it in print. And it was funny that by the third time that I did this, I started sounding like a salesman. And in my pitch, they were, "Are you getting any cut for all the things that you're doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm getting 15% of zero. That's what's going to cost to all the students." So yeah, I mean, it is just, I feel strongly about this, and I just challenge you to be an advocate for your students at your institution. It doesn't have to only be in your discipline. Of course, that's where we start. But people will be, at the beginning, they may be reluctant to the changes, but a week later, everyone has contacted me and said, "I have reviewed the textbook that you showed. It is a very good textbook, and we're looking to adopt it in the future." So that's a step forward to what we're doing. Then at the system level, we started, this was last week, we had our annual meeting of the ACMS. And we started sharing all the different ALG math initiatives throughout the USG. And the point was to get this conversation started, see what other institutions are doing, and to avoid reinventing the wheel. There are many institutions that are already doing something for a particular course. So the idea was to just share all this information and make sure that there is no redoing of any of the work. For example, for the courses that I just mentioned at CCGA, we will be developing, for the OpenStax books, they have some PowerPoint presentations that are not very complete. So we're developing all the PowerPoint presentations for all these books, for the pre-calculus and for the book in probability and statistics. And we're going to be sharing that. The idea is that we're all agreeing to share all this information with Creative Commons by. So the idea is we do this at the end of our grant. We simply put it out for everybody to use, and then no one is going to have to simply carry that burden of trying to rework all this information for their classes. And this brings me to a point, Ashley, in the over the horizon slide. You mentioned the idea of using open source math practice. Just in this meeting, we saw that, well, everyone likes my math lab. For the case of the OpenStax books, they use WebAssign. It is a great product, but it is still $30 for the students. It may not be a big problem in some institutions, but again, for institutions that serve low-income students, those $30 will have an impact. So we started that conversation, and then someone said, well, there is WebWorks, and then WebWorks, it is also open source. It is funded by the Mathematical Association of America and the NSF, and then we just need someone to work all these exercises in WebWorks. And well, that's a great idea. We just need to then maybe, if we have a third round of proposals, to get someone in some of the math departments to work on this and create all the homework to be open source. And yes, it is going to be in the making, and we will make it happen. maybe a year from now, not only the books were going to be completely free, but also the math practice online will be completely free. So we're very excited about all these things that are happening. Anything that you need of any resources, just feel free to contact me, gvargas@ccga.edu. Thank you for having me. And I'm going to pass this now on to Barbara Tucker. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vargas. I am going to pass this right to Barbara Tucker from Academic Affairs at Dalton State College. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Okay,
yes,
good.
We can hear you.
All right. I'm standing in today for Dr. Andy Meyer, who is our Vice President for Academic Affairs right now. And my topic is, why would administrators like open educational resources? Well, seeing as I believe I'm the last speaker and we've already had so many good presentations, I think the answer is pretty obvious. We like it because of the opportunities it gives for students and the faculty, and then the desired results that we would want as an institution. So first, in terms of our existence as an access institution, many of our students are on financial aid, at least 85% or more, and at least 60% in any given semester are going to be first-generation students. Some semesters that number is going to be higher. So we try very hard at Dalton State, and I'm sure this is true at other institutions, to keep our tuition very affordable. That's one thing we're known for. But when I hear the pretty extreme prices for some of these textbooks, typically, I realize that the students are probably going to be spending 40 to 50% of the amount they would spend on tuition on textbooks. And that's a little scary when you think about it, because of course, like everyone else, we're concerned about retention and graduation. And given the stressors economically that our students sometimes have, the mean age of our students is 24. Many of them, therefore, are non-traditional, have families, working full-time, etc. When you think about those stressors, they might be tempted to stop out if textbooks are really too rough for them that semester. So simply on that economic basis, we like open educational resources. And my primary role is as a faculty member, has been as a faculty member, so I see this both as an administrator and as a faculty member, and I do think it's a wonderful opportunity for faculty to engage in their discipline from both a scholarly and a pedagogical standpoint. And I know that at our institution there are 8 faculty members who are currently involved in the open educational resource at some level, and one of our librarians. And I know that in the case of one of them, it was because this professor could not find a textbook that really addressed the course material that she needed. And I've had that experience in my teaching as well, where the only books that were available were $150, and they really were just too much for what I could possibly do in a semester. So a large part of the material was going to be wasted, and a lot of the money was going to be wasted for the students. So sometimes you're forced to, for those reasons, to find other options. But I think it also, more importantly, gives our faculty opportunity to shine and show off, if you will, their expertise, and to get a higher profile in the higher education marketplace. And for that reason, as Sarah so eloquently said, and she's at our institution, that it gives you a lot of opportunity for learning from others, learning from the scholarly sources, etc. So it's a great opportunity for professional development for our faculty. And then, as I've already said, therefore, if you have students who are less likely to stop out or to be discouraged because of financial reasons, not being able to pay for textbooks, you're going to have better retention and ultimately better graduation rates. You're going to have happier students. So those are the sort of the points that I'd like to share about this from an administrator's viewpoint. And I just have to say that I'm very excited about where this is going, and for university system. And the input that Ms. Paulk gave about the students from the eCore classes and what they said, that was very exciting as well. So thank you.
And thank you.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's great to hear administrative support for OER efforts also. There seems to be support across the board for OER efforts, including some of our campus bookstores, which we work with. There are print-on-demand opportunities for campus bookstores, too. So there's an overall, I think, academic interest in OER. And you've seen many different ways that these projects are coming to fruition and being supported. So it is about 1 o'clock, but I am going to definitely be here. If anyone else would like to stick around for questions, that would be fine. Feel free to ask them in chat. Be sure to change your send to all participants so that we can all see your question. Okay, I'll give people a little bit more time to type in some questions. I do want to thank all of our presenters today for making this such an interesting call to action and celebration at the same time. I want to thank Dr. Davis and Meryl Penson and Lauren Fancher and Marie Lassiter for making ALG go from a concept to reality. It's great. Oh, we are getting questions. Awesome. Okay, so I'm getting a couple of private questions that I will ask for everyone. The first one is, how do we apply for an OER grant? Now that depends on what you're looking for. Affordable Learning Georgia does provide some textbook transformation grants, and those have gone through 2 rounds. We're hoping to have a 3rd round. That would be contingent on the funding for next fiscal year. Also, at many of your campuses, if you have any kind of mini grants that are for innovative teaching, those can usually be applied to OER. I know at my institution, Valdosta State, we have $1,000 grants that are being put towards flipped classrooms and OER and things like that. So be on the lookout in Affordable Learning Georgia. Our newsletter, which is at affordableLearningGeorgia.org/newsletters. I will send that in chat right now. Whenever we have that next round, we will announce it there and give you all the details. So let me just make sure that this will translate as a link. There we go. There it is. Okay. I lost chat. There we go. Next question. There was another one about grants. I think we just answered that one. By the way, anyone who's looking for information on current grant projects, the final report from our round 1 grantees is going to come through in June, and then we will be making all of that information available, including any measurements. Next question, are OERs adapted from other states and systems, and will USG allow other states and systems to use our OERs? So one of the big things that I couldn't talk too much about today, because I really wanted everyone to share their experiences, is what OERs are and what open licensing means. If you have something open, you are giving permissions to anyone to freely distribute that work and to freely modify, change, and remix that work. So for example, British Columbia has a really good OER program called BC Campus. They had a marketing open textbook from the US, and they just took all of the American examples, took them out, put in Canadian examples, and geared it towards Canadian marketing practices, and created a Canadian edition of that book. Anything that's OER, that's truly open, including USG-generated OER, should be adaptable, and we are adapting works within our textbook transformation grant projects from other states and other systems. Okay, the next one is anyone working on any kind of freshman orientation textbook, something with study skills, time management, test taking, etc. I know that I can definitely vouch for one institution that has worked on that, which is Savannah State University. We are going to be releasing a video with them about their implementation of a freshman year experience / first year experience open textbook they are using. They know that they had to have students buy a couple of different books each time, and their implementation of an open textbook really helped out because then everybody had day one access to that stuff. We have a list of our campus champions and library coordinators, and at Savannah State, Mary Jo Fayonian would be a great person to talk to about this. Do OER texts have an expiration date, or once downloaded, do they belong to the students in perpetuity? So this is one of the great things about OER, something that is really appealing as opposed to having a commercial textbook. No, they do not have an expiration date. An open license placed on material is an irrevocable license, and if you download an OER, you have the license to duplicate it, remix it, do whatever you want with it. They belong to those students in perpetuity, so it is lifelong access for lifelong learning, so long as you maintain access to the material. One big challenge that we've been facing is providing that kind of access and keeping it sustainable. I think that Georgia Knowledge Repository efforts, which are part of our digital repositories, those are really helping in preserving that information. And we're looking at other methods of doing so, bigger, more national or worldwide programs. But no, they do not have an expiration date. I am interested in building OERs for communication courses. Who do I contact? That is a good question. I could probably set you up with people after I look into this. Send me an email at what's on the screen right now, jeff.galant@usg.edu, and we can look into this together. And of course, from Ashley Paulk, eCore also needs to recognize Dr. Marie Lassiter. She has been very supportive and instrumental in our OER efforts. Thank you, Marie. Absolutely, thank you, Marie. This presentation would not have been as interesting as it is if it were not for Marie Lassiter. She's been such a big help to everyone involved in Affordable Learning Georgia and throughout eCore. From Barbara Tucker, and believe me, feel free to chime in on any of these, any panelists or anyone who's participating. Going to Barbara Tucker, can a faculty member just develop an OER for its college, but not necessarily for other colleges? Well, an open educational resource, when it has an open license, is made for distribution to whoever would like it. So a restriction that only a particular university could use it would be tough to do. You would really want to make sure that there's a way to provide access to it outside of your institution. Starting with college access is just fine, but if you're going to have an open license on something, you're giving everybody permission to copy it, download it, and send it. It'll have a higher impact that way. And Carol Nemajowski has a good LibGuides, a good LibGuide on this, and there are many good LibGuides on this too. Thank you so much. Marie says you are welcome. Great. But Bonnie also says, I second that need for recognition to Dr. Marie Lassiter. She is the pioneer. She really is. She wrote a white paper on the price of textbooks before I even knew about OERs at all. She has been such a big help. Dr. Davis, thanks to all of today's participants. Great information. In addition to sharing the slide after they did, we record the session. Yes, we did. And we are also recording this Q&A. And Merrill Penton does say there's more information about what OER is, what Creative Commons are, available at the Affordable Learning Georgia website. Absolutely. It's affordablelearninggeorgia.org, and if you have any suggestions as to what we could add, I do a lot of that stuff, so I'll be able to do so. Thank you, Merrill. From Anna, thank you. These are exciting times in higher education. They sure are. One of the big things that David Wiley, who's a really big figure in OER, says is that the internet has revolutionized the way that we can share information and how we can conduct education. Copyright gets in the way of that a lot of the time, but if we can work within copyright through open licenses, like Creative Commons licenses, we can start enabling the type of education that the internet makes possible. Karen Watson says, who is the person at Savannah State that I need to talk to about the freshman experience materials? I'm going to type this in. And I'm going to give you an email address. In just a second. Make sure I get it right. Aha, okay. There we go. So that is Mary Jo Fayonian at fayonianm@savannahstate.edu. And Molly Jo says, how to cite OER. That's really interesting. When it comes to open educational resources, the type of educational resource it is doesn't really change. So if you have a work from a website, it's still a work from a website. If you have an electronic book, it's still an electronic book. If it's provided in a database, it's still provided in a database. So that it really shouldn't change too much within citations. But if you're going to provide a link, say, to an OER, you may want to include a citation near that link, just in case that link ever changes. We can use our powers of Google to find it, or our powers of librarianship to find it in the libraries. And Karen says, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions or anything to add? And thank you, Carol, for doing the champions and coordinators link. I will share that with everybody at the moment by copying it. Over here. There it is. Yes, and some OER will provide an HTML attribution code. At Creative Commons, there's a really easy way to do that, and it's creativecommons.org/choose. It lets you select a Creative Commons license, and it gives you HTML code in case you want to put it on a work on a website. And it links over to a human-readable document that makes it understandable, because, I mean, open licenses are legal documents after all. So it's a really helpful way to put something on a work that is on the web. Does anyone like to, would anyone like to add anything else about this? Okay, well, thank you so much for coming, and thank you once again to all of our panelists. This has been such a great experience in getting people aware of these resources. Thank you, Marie. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone. I will be sending out the archive link that is included in our newsletter for tomorrow. So subscribe to our newsletter if you're not on there, because we'll have it there. Send me an email if you do not get it at jeff.gallant@usg.edu. Thank you so much.